Now look, sorry, which is a nice way of saying those that have ears to hear. Let them hear. You see, Plato was a revelation to me because he was a person with the same handicaps as me, finding, as he understood it, a way out by reason and logic and sheer gut determination of thought. But it didn't arrive at the right answers. By which I mean, well, of course, the very basis of the story is he's lamenting over his great teacher who was unjustly treated, which is, if you think of it, the foundation of the whole of the mystery cults. You know, the noble personhood in Christianity, the Christ who suffers for the people. So, but Plato doesn't know his God. Or should I say, it's not the same God as Jesus in the story. That's much developed from that, and developed in a quite different way. Developed as in through the Hebrew statement that the wisdom of man is as foolishness with God. You might think, well, that's not very Platonic. It's an utter criticism of it. Yeah, of course. But then Platonism is a self-criticism of thought in order to, in some sense, move towards truth. But you can't get to truth from underneath. You know, the lack of mind may value mind, but it doesn't have it. Not the fullness of it necessary. It has to develop, and it did develop. It developed as far as we can see right back from, well, before Zoroaster, right back as beyond what we can see of any form of trace of history, you see. Yes, it has developed. An understanding of God to be the perfect God. And something like the Hindu understanding, in fact most religions understanding that it takes an untold number of incarnations to get anywhere individually, as an individual soul or person or entity living, well, whether living in the world or in some other state, takes a great long time. And then the ideal purpose of religion starts to hit us, which is that we get help from above. That these gods are not just doing something like trying to produce the perfect state, as in Hebrew sort of concern as it develops through Judaism, into Judaism. I mean, tribal religion in the beginning. It's the ideal tribe, isn't it? Then there's some sort of notion of there should be a cooperation between the ideal tribes and you have an ideal nation. And the Greek thing is you should have an ideal nation of input of all the citizens in it that hopefully brings out every view, and the best decision is in some way settled upon, perhaps by a show of hands, a vote. Which is just a symbolic way, really, of saying everyone puts in and hears everyone else and comes to a decision. And technologically, you couldn't do that with a nation. You just ended up with a tyranny at the top. You could say our technology allows us to do so now. But it's an incredible numbers game that the individual is unlikely to be significant. Hence, some are able to still be very significant, and are. And you're back to the more of a tyranny than that you had before. When I say I think studying Plato made me short-sighted, it dawns on me here and now, the last 10 minutes. Yes, spiritually made you short-sighted, Marshall. You thought that thought would rescue you. It's not so. The Jesus story thinks, if you like, is consistent with. No, it's the heart. It's the feelings that can rescue you. When you conceive of God as your heavenly dad, you now see God as paternal, loving and kind, selfless. It's that view of God that transforms you. Not the great teacher. Call no man teacher, says Jesus. And you think, oh, Plato's archetypal teacher. The academy he produces, the books are all teaching. Jesus is not saying, haven't I taught you well? He's saying, haven't I been a long time with you? And haven't you seen me? Don't you know me? If you did, realize that I'm a reflection of God in the way I've been living. Not in the way I've been teaching, because if it hadn't been such that your ears could hear, you wouldn't even notice me. You wouldn't be here listening now. You're drawn to me. I've chosen you, not you me. You're drawn to me because something in who I am that draws you, not what I say. A man can say what he thinks till he's blue in the face. If it's not in harmony with what you wish to hear, you just reject him the more. Before he was a stranger, now if anything he's an enemy, because he doesn't think quite like you at all. But I have chosen you because you have ears to hear. You see, if you're not in harmony with me, when I say it, those who have ears to hear, you think, well, it's certainly not me. I don't agree with the man. If I go at all, it's to criticise him and point out just how wrong he is. Well, okay, that's not a perfect story. You got me teaching Sermon on the Mount, but I say unto you. so-and-so, so-and-so. So just as he says, call no man fool, and then says, thou fool. I mean, I don't think it's quite in the same breath, but it's in the same Gospels, it's in the same story. We're not talking about any obvious or superficial consistency here. We're talking about spirit. And I don't mean we're pulling the wool over your eyes and hiding things from you. You know, the opposite of teaching is not to help and guide, but my presence, who I am, is your rescue. My rescue is not a logical argument. My rescue is the presentation of who I am, what I value. In simplistic terms, God's words through me, in me. But it's my presence and in you. And the Holy Spirit and the Father in you. And that's why transcendence is not thought. It's fantastic feeling. I don't mean some hallucinogenic drug experience, but I do mean spiritual experience, transcendence. We use the word consciousness in New Age terminology. It's not academic performance and wonderful argument, successful logical analysis and conclusion. It's devotion. It's gratitude. It's love. Integrity. Intuition. Joy. Peace. Empathy. Fellowship with God. Being. It's being. As understood in the terms of family, not as understood in the terms of state or government or politics. Or some notion of a perfect economics, as in, say, communism, or even the quotes perfect free market. They're not perfect at all, neither communism nor is the free market anything but perfect. So, I mean, it's certainly, it is anything but perfect. Sorry, I don't know if I quite said it right, but you know what I mean, don't you? I used to lecture on the imperfections of the market economy. Even on the theory of perfect competition. My lectures would cover the inadequacies, the inconsistencies, the false premises on which the theory is built. I don't mean it wasn't an heroic attempt by mankind to see, in a sense, the hidden hand. It's Adam Smith, isn't it? That selfish competition still resulted in economic growth and ability to meet our needs. Staggeringly, unbelievably, impressively, as in the 21st century, or 19th, Industrial Revolution and so on. But none of this is heaven. It's earth. It's the classroom, the teaching area. Let me pause. I've run 15 minutes, haven't I?